Today we're going to talk about informing parents about intervention and making sure that parents understand what intervention is and what it means to them and their child. The first thing that we're going to want to explain to parents is that we don't make diagnoses of their children as their teachers, but because we're familiar with their children and their children's work through work sampling and documentation, we have the opportunity to evaluate their children's progress. And so the first part of intervention that we want parents to know about is the screening process. The screening process, it takes place with formal assessment tools and with the children's portfolios, which would include child's work samples, documentation like our anecdotal notes, examples of the children's interactions during the school day because we have firsthand knowledge of that. And that's part of the screening. Some of the formal screening tools that are used, especially in the preschool, in 0 to 4-year-old programs, is this thing called the ASQ. This is a national screening program, a screening assessment tool that is used. The thing that I've used these are actually two that I've used for my students in my school. What I like about the screening assessment tool is it takes away from the teacher any responsibility to evaluate this child. The tool does the evaluation. So the parents do not have to wonder if you're being unfair in evaluating their child. For instance, this ASQ is an 18-month-old and a 30-month-old. So in that time period, there's about a year and a half in between that the child was evaluated. And what's great about this tool is you just simply mark off whether the child is learning to, or has not yet done a certain task that meets developmental standards for their age. In the end, the screening tool allows you to document here. You fill in all the bubbles of how the child did on each task. Anything that's in this dark area means that there might be a developmental delay, that further evaluation may be needed. And so then this screening tool helps the parents recognize that it's not my opinion in helping the parents know if the child needs to be evaluated, but a standardized evaluation tool, assessment tool, helps parents recognize if maybe their child might need extra support or intervention. Once you have the assessment tools and the child's work sampling, the next thing you need to do is actually get the parents involved. And so you're going to want to have a conference. This is not the kind of information you share with parents when they pick up their child, and especially not in front of other parents. So you'll want to call a conference and have your documentation ready to share with the parents. Make sure you have a copy for them to take home so that they can consider it. And then the next thing, so you're going to share the screening evaluations. And then you're also, if you have concerns, you're going to be that bridge between the parents and intervention resources and services. And so that's the next step. Is eligibility. The tool that I just expressed to you, and there's other assessment tools also that are used, simply says that maybe this child might have delays that need further investigation. As a teacher and in a daycare center or in a elementary school like K through 3rd grade, we are not professional enough to know if there's a developmental delay. And so we're a bridge that helps get the parents into the area of where services are given. And then further, so the federal government has two services, Child Find and Early Steps, that then go through the process of, it's part of the IDEA federal government program, IDEA program, and they go through the steps then to determine, based on federal criteria, whether the child needs additional intervention. And so the parent then has to give permission. The parent is the one that takes the information and contacts these agencies. The school does not do that. We are not legally allowed to because it's not our child. The parent has to give permission, and they also have to be the one that makes the contact. And so they're going to then contact the services and the services will take it from there. They will continue to do formalized evaluations. As teachers, they may come back to us and find out, ask us additional information about the child, and then we're going to also share all of that with the parents. We want to make sure that we always recognize that the child belongs to the parents, and that we want to make sure that we don't do anything without the parents' knowledge and without their permission. So the eligibility will then be determined if the child has delays, and if then interventions can be put in place through occupational therapists, through therapies, through services, to assist the child in having their delays be brought up to their full capacity. So then the next step that happens is intervention planning comes in, and that's when the IEP, or the individualized educational plan, will be put in place, assessed by a team of specialists. Me as the educator, the teacher, might be involved with that, but generally it's more professionally trained people that are in the field of developmental delays or disabilities. And so they'll come up with a plan. And the plan may include services that are given into the class, that are brought into the classroom, so I might be assisting them. The most important role that I have as a teacher is that I support the child's development. I support the team, the intervention team, by being aware of their IEP plan, and that I assist that in the classroom. And the most important thing I do then is to communicate with the parents, and I make accommodations and modifications in the curriculum and in the classroom environment to make sure that I support the child with support the child's developmental ability. And then the last thing that we want to make sure the parents are aware of is that once the child has been diagnosed and with a developmental delay, and that they're receiving these services, that we will continue to monitor their progress and to make sure that the parents are kept informed of the progress. There may not be progress, and that the parents also need to be informed of that, and also to help the parents understand how intervention works in the long run. And also, the other thing that's really important in keeping parents informed and involved with the intervention is how we're going to transition the child from year to year into the next classroom up, and make sure that the IEP plan continues to go on from class to class as the child gets older. The final thing I want to make sure I mention about informing parents about intervention was that when you talk about intervention, you want to make sure that the parents know that eligibility is taken care of by professionals, that the teachers or the school system, it's not our opinion, but that trained professionals take care of whether their child is eligible, and that they take care of the screening and offering the services, that they'll put together the team. The parent doesn't have to do that. And the other thing to really make sure parents understand is that this is a free service provided by our federal government. A couple years back, I had a child that had a speech that was language delayed, and it was very noticeable, and her parents noticed it, and we talked about it, and I did the screening, and she showed up as being delayed on that, and so I encouraged them to go get to make the phone call to have further screening done, because I felt she was eligible for services, and the parents kept hesitating. They kept refraining from doing that. And after a couple of years, they finally confided in me. It's because they couldn't afford it. They did not know it was a free program that the federal government provided as a right to all of its citizens. So make sure your parents always know that it's not by opinion, and it is a free service for the parents. And then when you do want to know where do you go next, there's two different entities that take care of the screening, and these are in Hillsborough County, there's in statewide in Florida, and they're also nationwide. But if you simply Google Child Find, you'll find your local agency that you could inform the parent of, so they can contact that agency for further diagnostic screenings for eligibility. That's for birth through age 21 is what the Child Find entity takes care of. And then early steps is from birth to 3 years. Early intervention is really important if we can catch it soon enough. And this is what we do as teachers is we might, because of our professional understanding of development, we're going to know if a child might be delayed, whereas a parent might think that their child's behavior is normal or not worth paying attention to. And it's up to us to make sure that the parent gets in contact with with either one of these screening and service entities so they can put together a program if they find that the child is eligible. So that's what we really have to make sure that we want to do when we're informing parents of intervention.